Hey, what's up guys? Matt here with Fix Anything Save Money. Today I'm going to be showing you how to switch out a normal outlet with a GFCI outlet. If you're wondering what a GFCI is, it stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter, and you need these if you're anywhere within 3 to 6 feet of a water source. So you can see here we're in our half bath, and I never noticed until just now we have just a normal outlet right next to our sink. So we're going to be switching this out with a new GFCI outlet. So first things first, I'll walk you through the tools you're going to need for this. And what we're going to need is a pair of needle nose, a Phillips head, some wire strippers possibly. This is a non-contact voltage tester. Lets you tell if wires are hot. This is a receptacle tester, and then a flathead, and then we're just going to need our new GFCI outlet and then our outlet cover. So the first thing we're going to want to do before we do anything is throw a rag. If you're working next to the sink, just throw a rag in there so if you drop any screws or anything, nothing goes down your drain. And then what I like to do before I kill the power is test this outlet with our receptacle tester, and this is going to tell us if we're starting off with the outlet wired correctly. And you can see we have 2 lights that come on, and it gives you a nice little diagram on the bottom. It tells you the correct wiring. Those 2 lights should be lit, and then it tells you all of the other, if your outlet's not wired correctly, why it's not. So we know our outlet's wired correctly, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to kill the power. So you're going to want to find the circuit breaker for this outlet. I already kind of know, so I'll go turn that off real quick. And then a good little tip, if you're ever doing this and you don't know which breaker it's on, you could just plug one of these in, or you could plug an appliance in or something and just flip breakers and have, your wife or someone just there on the phone with you or something if you're down in the basement next to the panel, and just, she'll let you know when the appliance goes off or when the lights go off on this, and then your power's killed. But I will say, even though our breaker's off, once we remove this plate and remove this outlet, we're gonna test it with the non-contact voltage tester, just to be certain that there's no wires in here that are hot. That's a very important step to do, and it's gonna keep you from getting a shock in the future. So we'll just remove this plate with our flathead. And then we're gonna remove these 2 screws right here. These are both flatheads. On the new outlet, we have a Phillips head. So that's why we have our Phillips head screwdriver with us as well. Okay, so we have our 2 screws removed from the outlet. Now we're just going to pull our wires out with our outlet, and we're going to see what we're working with here. Okay, so we have our outlet pulled out, and you can see these are our hot wires. Are black, so you can see right there we're already really not wired great. This copper hook should be back further, so that could have happened when I just pulled it out, or the original person who installed this could have just been a little lazy or whatever. So pretty much what you're looking at here is 2 neutral, you're hot, and then this is going to be the wire that feeds another receptacle down the line. Same with this neutral. So usually if you see 2 wires like this on each side, that just means there's another outlet on your loop. If you see only 1, then that's the only outlet. There's nothing else powering any other outlets. So what we're going to do here is remove these screws, and I like to just kind of place them up the way that they're going to go back on. So we'll do that now. And these are also flathead, but on the new outlet our GFCI outlet, they are also Phillips screws. Okay, so we know that this is the bottom. This is the top, so we'll put the top up top. And then we'll put the bottom down bottom. And then another thing you always want to do, you want to test these wires just to make sure nothing's hot in here. If these are hot, this thing will beep at you and it'll turn solid red. So you can see we have no power anywhere in the box. And then another thing to note, this house was wired in the 70s. So there is a ground on this outlet and there's a ground in the box. You can see it back here. But the ground is just tied off. This is a metal box. The ground is tied off to a screw in the box. So what we're gonna do is something a little bit different when we install our GFCI, but usually when you pull these out, you'll see, you know, your black wire, your white wire, and then your ground wire to your outlet, and that's just how you'll wire it back up. Okay, so now we'll flip the outlet over and we'll remove our neutrals. So now that we have our wires out and out of place, what we're going to want to do is take a look at the back of this, and you can see on this outlet it tells you right here that when you remove this sticker, this is to add outlets. It says the load terminals under this label are for feeding additional receptacles. Miswiring can leave this outlet without ground fault protection. So we're going to remove this because we need to wire those up. And then for these, you can see the way these work. Instead of wrapping it around, these have little clamps that you're going to stick the wire in and then tighten the clamp around it on all four. So what we're going to need to do is straighten out our loops on our wires with our needle nose. And if you have a bunch of wire in here, you could just re-strip this. You could use your wire strippers and clip this right off and then just re-strip it. But this copper's in pretty good shape, so I'm just gonna straighten this out. Okay, so now we can start to wire our outlet. And so we're just gonna stick our copper inside of this clamp, and then we're gonna tighten our screw, which is gonna tighten this clamp around the wire. And then one thing you wanna be careful of when you do this is if you have too much exposed copper, you're gonna wanna trim some of it off because you don't want a lot of copper coming back outside of the outlet. You want it pretty much just like that so that you don't have any exposed copper. Okay, so now we have our neutrals hooked up. Now we can hook up our hot wire. Okay, so now we have our wires all tight. Now the only thing we have to worry about is this ground. So this box is grounded with the existing configuration. However, what I want to do is pretty much, it's called a pigtail, and I want to put a pigtail from this ground to the ground on the outlet, which is right under here, this green screw. So we're just going to get a bare piece of copper from a scrap piece of Romex that I have, and we're just going to tie it from here onto here. Okay guys, so now you can see we have our piece of ground, just bare copper we're going to be using, and the easiest way to join these two pieces is just to use one of these wire nuts. You could just twist them together, but this will hold it a lot better, so we're just going to stick both of these in like this. And then we're just going to twist our wire nut and keep twisting until you can actually feel these wires want to twist. And then you know you have a real solid connection. Nothing's going to pull out. And then we're just going to take this end of the ground, we'll trim it up. And then we're just going to take this bare copper and stick it into our ground the same way we did with the other outlets or with the other wires. And then we're just going to tighten our ground screw down. Okay, so now we just want to do one final check before we push it back into the wall. Just want to make sure all of our connections are tight. We don't have any loose wires anywhere. And then we can start tucking our wires back in. Now we could take our screws and we can put our screws back into the outlet box. And then as you get to the end of tightening it, you just want to kind of eyeball it and make sure this outlet's not cocked in any way. And tighten it down the rest of the way. And then just give it a little wiggle test. I'm the king of over tightening. So that's good. And now all we're going to do is just put our plate back on. And you can see it's going to look pretty clean. I like to use a smaller screwdriver when you're tightening these screws, because if you use a screwdriver that's too big, it's going to chip the paint and just kind of look a little cruddy. Okay, so now the last step is to turn our power back on and then check everything, make sure it's all wired correctly. So I'll go turn the power back on and be right back. Okay, so we have the power back on, and there's a little green light here that's on, and we can hit test. That'll kill it. You can see that light went out, and now if we hit reset, that light will come back on, and now we could test it with our outlet tester. And you can see we have our two orange lights, which means it's wired correctly. And yeah, guys, that's it. That's how you switch out a normal outlet with a GFCI if you're in a wet area like a bathroom or a kitchen. Yeah, guys, let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments. Otherwise, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also be sure to check out the links in the description of this video. I'll show you where you can buy all this stuff. You just click on the links and it's real quick. It'll take you right to Amazon. So yeah, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.